Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Market Wrap. So here we are back in Philly. It was an ugly Giants loss this week. We looked horrible. I think that might be the run for the season. It was fun while it lasted, but God, that was a tough loss. But the good news this week is today's my wife's birthday, so my wife's in a great mood. My son Matthew flies home on Friday, so we're gonna have a great weekend, finally have all the family home. Can't wait looking forward to the weekend for sure. Now, this week we had three really great watches that came across my desk. We're going to start with a Patek Philippe and a really unusual one. It's the 5180 1R. Now this is the skeleton bracelet version, rose gold. It is absolutely gorgeous, super thin, skeletonized movements. Now for those of you who are Patek Philippe buffs, you'll know back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, they did a lot of skeletonized movements that were just drop dead gorgeous. This is kind of the modern interpretation of it, one of my all-time favorite modern Pateks. The second piece I took this week was a Royal Oak Skeleton, chrono, tourbillon, ceramic, everything I love about AP in the current versions. I love the black ceramic. A chrono turb is an amazing complication. This is just a spectacular watch, super rare, not an inexpensive piece, but just the greatest combination of everything AP is doing these days. And the last piece I have is a Patek Philippe Chronograph, and this one's the 5170. Now the 5170, when it first launched, I was not the biggest fan, but it's grown on me over the years, and this particular version is my favorite. It's the white gold, black dial, just absolutely beautiful. They only made it for a couple of years. I think long term, this is a great watch to have in your collection. So last weekend, I spent quite a few hours on Saturday watching the Phillips Racing Pulse auction. And I thought it would be fun to discuss a little bit of the results and what we see in the market, especially in the auction world. So this was Phillips' last auction of the year. They typically have some of the best auctions, had a great collection, and the results were quite interesting. So first of all, they sold 99% of the lots, many at a record price. So the market seemed super strong. It ran the gamut. I think unequivocally we can say that 2020 was probably the best year ever for the pre-owned watches, and certainly Phillips auction set some of the records that you'll see time and time again. Now, most of the headlines went to two pieces. The first one was a Paul Newman Daytona, his second Daytona, a big red. This one brought 5.475 million. Now, not the 17 million that the Daytona, the first one brought, but still a huge result. The second piece was a Tag Heuer Steve McQueen gifted Monaco. It brought $2.2 million. Now for a Tag Heuer, obviously a record number, had a great history, still a little crazy in my world, but quite a good result. Sylvester Stallone had a number of watches in the sale, all did well. But celebrity watches have never really excited me. I think the only one I ever got excited about is years ago, we had traded Joe DiMaggio's Patek Philippe, which was really cool. But overall, celebrity watches never really did it for me. I think it's a little overvalued for what you're getting. And certainly down the road, it never holds the same cachet. What I did notice, though, and a few things in the sale that were special. First of all, Lange had a number of pieces in the sale, and it was definitely Lange's best auction that I've ever seen. A Grand Lange 1 brought $32,760, certainly the highest I've seen it trade at. A first generation Datograph brought $68,000, certainly a new benchmark for the Datograph. Something I love to see. You know I'm a huge Datograph fan, so it was great to see that result. And the last one was the Odysseus in steel. It was their new introduction from last year. It was the first one that had hit the auction market. Now this is a $30,000 to $40,000 watch normally. It brought $81,900. Now, damn, Lange hitting double retail, certainly something that nobody expected. I think it's great for the brand to see that energy hit the auction market. Now, Journe obviously has been a talk of the auction market this year. They had a number of pieces that brought great results. Some people talked about the Resonance subscription piece. It brought $403,000, probably less than some people expected, but we got to keep in mind it had a replaced dial. It was number 4, so that hurts the Asian market. But overall, I think the two most interesting pieces in Journe were the Octachrono, that brought $252,000, And most interesting was the Vagabondage 3. There was a rose gold version in there. We were following this watch closely. We love this particular model. I took it up to about 150. It ended up hammering at $245,000. Certainly a new benchmark. It's really crazy to see how fast this market's moved. There was only 68 of them ever made. So I think this is something that's going to hold at this level. We've already had a lot of calls talking about that result, and I think it's a new benchmark for the V3. The last trend I noticed was most interesting to me was Patek chronographs were surprisingly strong. A steel 5961A brought 75,000. The 5170P, beautiful blue diamond dial, brought 107. Now these are definitely higher levels than we're used to seeing. The last piece was a 5070 in white gold, brought 81,900. Again, these have been trading over the last few years, 60 to 65,000. It's really interesting to see the chronographs take this jump. I think a lot of the energy in the market over the last year or so was brands outside of Patek. I think Patek, and specifically the chronographs, are really poised in a place that we could see a big jump on those going forward in 2021. The last thing we're going to talk about is what we are buying. My first on my list this week is the Rolex Yellow Gold GMT, and particularly the green version. It's a watch that I'm not seeing around lately. They took a big spike about 6 or 9 months ago, and they've seemed to dry up on the market. So that's a watch we're always after. The second piece is the Daytona white gold blue dial. Love colored dial Daytonas. We're seeing a lot of interest, certainly in the yellow green, but that white gold blue I think is still a little bit of a sleeper. Love to see a couple of those come in. And last but certainly not least, Lange Datographs. I think the auctions are showing us there's renewed interest in the Datograph, a lot of history, a set number of pieces. Always looking to see those come in. Thanks for watching this week's Market Wrap. We look forward to seeing you next week.